Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is June 10th, 2022, which means we are exactly 1 year on from the appointment of Ange Postecoglou as Celtic manager. It has been a very weird, exciting, and just overall fun year to be a Celtic fan. And I don't think that any of us sitting down watching this video would say that this time last year we would have seen the success that we have over the course of the 365 days. It has been a roller coaster of emotions. It's one that we've all joined in hand, and it's one that I think we can reflect on quite well. So let's do that today. Let's look at the first year of Ange Postecoglou as Celtic manager, and let's look a little bit into the future and what will hopefully be a good few years with success under Ange. Now, before we go any further with today's video, as always, could you please go down below and hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 35,000 subscribers, which is halfway on the road to 40,000 subscribers, so let's try and get there as quick as possible. And you know what? Kit season's came up, hasn't it? If we can get to 35 very soon, then who knows? We might do a wee away shirt giveaway, considering it was announced this morning, the beautiful new away kit for Celtic. It looks a stunner. And you know what, maybe I'm feeling generous if we can get to 35k sometime soon, and one of you lucky viewers could win one. One full year, It's been the weirdest year ever, and I don't mean in terms of just Celtic, I just mean in general. It's so weird how the last year has gone. For me, it feels like it's been so slow yet so fast, and I know that sounds weird, but it feels like an eternity that we've had Ange Postecoglou as manager. We're so close to him, we love him that much that it feels like he's been here at the club for years, but at the same time, it only feels like yesterday we were sitting down and we were talking about the risk of appointing a guy that we never really knew. And then you throw in just everything that's happened in life in general. Crowds return to football, normality return to this country in terms of post-COVID's world. We've seen Boris Johnson survive 10,000 different attempts of being thrown out Parliament. Just everything that's happened in this country for the last 365 days feels like it should be packed into a decade. And then you just look at it and solely in relation to Celtic. It's just been a crazy, wild and overall fun year to be a Celtic fan. It was exactly a year ago today we sat down and we discussed the fact that Ange Postecoglou would be appointed Celtic manager. And we sat there with all the scepticism and anxiety in the world at the thought of the unknown, the thought of this gamble, the fact we never got Eddie Howe, the fact we never got Rafa Benitez. You know, names that were linked with us for a while, they all sort of vanished, and then this one guy emerged from nowhere, and it was one that we all never heard of. And I think we all embraced it. We all wanted Ange Postecoglou to do well. I think you'd be pressed to find a Celtic fan who wasn't wishing him to do well. But I think if you're sitting down and you're being brutally honest, we all sat on a chair and we all sat reading the papers and watching the news and watching YouTube videos saying the same thing, like, this is a risk. This is a gamble. And boy, has it turned out to be one of the best risks that Celtic Football Club has ever taken. We're going to take a look at some of the reaction from myself and from the wider world after this video from exactly a year ago today. But I think that one thing's got to be said, that, you know, I went into this season hoping for the best in terms of us building back to a level that we could, you know, compete with Rangers again. Little did I think that we'd win a League Cup. Little did I think we'd win a league title. And little did I think that ultimately we'd be ending the season back on top again in Scotland. There was a lot of optimistic fans who thought we could have. And there was a lot of fans who you know, said to themselves, yeah, we'll be back on top again. But I sat down and I searched myself and I accepted the fact and I accepted the reality that was maybe going to be a 2 or 3 year job until we were the top dogs again in this country. And yet here we are 1 year on with Ange Postecoglou back where we belong. It was almost like we were never away from being the top dogs. That COVID year of football, it was disastrous, of course. And we lost the league title. It was hurtful. It was a really low point in supporting Celtic, considering, you know, we knew what the stakes were that year. But for us to bounce back so quickly in the manner that we did with everyone against us is a real credit to the guy that we hired last year. And I'm going to touch on some of the things that Ange Postecoglou said when he was first appointed Celtic manager that have really shown and really stuck true to the kind of initial words that he came out with when he joined Celtic, because we're seeing so much of that character we heard about. You heard a lot of the Australian fans, a lot of the Australian media, and even some guys over in Japan as well, talking about the qualities we would get with Ange Postecoglou. And it's very typical for when a club gets a manager to hear these sort of things. It's always, the first thing is you hear other people that have had experience with the manager saying this is what you'll get here. You get a lot of the kind of typical, the same thing said. But with everything that was said about Ange, it's been so true to extents beyond belief. And it's almost like he's seen what folk are saying about it and he's like, well, I'm going to do one better than that. And that's how it feels that Ange Postecoglou's brought over here. Feels like he's just went one better. And he's thrived on that stage. He spoke about it a few times. He's got this opportunity now to really show people up and really prove doubters wrong. He's on that worldwide stage now with a club like Celtic. And he's thrived on that. And you've seen that each and every single step of the way. And that's the kind of guy you need in charge of your football club. You need someone who's out there that's hungry and is determined to prove people wrong and is determined to set things straight. He's got that motivation behind him, that little spark that can make things even sweeter. And everything that he's done here at Celtic has reflected everything he wants to achieve as a manager himself. I mean, the first year has just been absolutely stupendous. From the get-go, to be honest. I know we had our struggles early on in the season, which we'll come to talking about in a moment, but I still remember sitting there, the first home league match of the season, and we put 6 by Dundee, and I was sitting thinking to myself, wow. And we heard everything about Ange Postecoglou's football, and there was a real anxiety behind that for a lot of folk. A lot of people were like, this is going to be the downfall of us, being so attacking and having so many men forward, and this wasn't meant to be used in Scotland. Celtic couldn't play like that, especially with the squad he was inheriting. We weren't meant to do that, apparently. You look at the first 2 league home games, not just the Dundee St Mirren, back-to-back 6-0s. And that's when the flavour was really kind of starting to, we were starting to see things, starting to taste a little bit of what Ange Postecoglou was all about. We were just sort of bubbling at the beginning. And I know we had those early setbacks. The away games weren't great and there was signs of, improvement that would be needed. But every player that Ange Postecoglou has signed within this first season, from Joe Hart to Kyogo, from back to front, every signing has made sense. Every signing has came in and bought into what Ange Postecoglou has made Celtic Football Club and what he's all about. And that's been one of the real strengths about this whole year. It's the way that we've went from game to game, month to month, just getting better. Our strengths have got better. Our weaknesses we've improved on. And there's just been a growth in belief about this team. Right back at the start of the season, we could have collapsed. We could have threw the toys away. We could have really kind of gave in with the league title. And I think for a lot of players and a lot of managers, it would have been hard to kind of recover that form and recover that confidence that you could challenge for a league title. But you listen to Ange Postecoglou after every single press conference throughout the season, throughout tough games, and you can tell the way he would go in and speak to his players is the exact attitude we needed to keep our title hopes alive. And that's ultimately how you're walking away at the end of the season with a league trophy. I think one thing that has to be said is the way that he's been able to turn around players is unbelievable. The form that some have found after being washed, some would say, is unbelievable. You look at a guy like Tony Ralston, you look at a guy like Greg Taylor. These were players who Celtic fans were, very accepting that they might not be good enough and were really sort of eager to see improvement and see replacements. And I think we all accepted the thought that their Celtic careers might not go much further. And the way he's turned them around, the way he's gave them a lease of life and turned them into players that we now trust and want to see play and everything else, it's just unbelievable. That's one of the things that has to be credited, because he came in with the task of having to rebuild this side, which I think we all assumed straight away was going to be sign every Tom, Dick and Harry. But what he done was he made players already at the squad good enough. And that was a task I thought no manager would be able to take on after the season prior. I think another thing is the fact that the media handling has been a breath of fresh air. This year has been so fun to watch Ange bite back at journalists, to give them that sort of on your toes feeling. You don't know what you're going to get with him, and you can see the difference in how he treats media, fan media, the Australian media. There's a real sort of warmth to him when he's talking to the fans and his fellow countrymen. But he knows not to take the nonsense in this country, because we have a problem with our mainstream media. We have a problem with the line of questioning. We have a problem with how things are reported and worded. Words are always put in the mouths of managers and players over here. And Ange Postecoglou has been very quick to sit down and tell them all and let it be known that that won't happen to him. But just the way that he handles himself and the way that he's kind of created a few laughs and this personality of who he is has been so refreshing. And I think for once you have a manager who's well and truly, and I'm not saying this hasn't happened at Celtic because we've had plenty of occasions where the likes of Martin O'Neill, even Neil Lennon, and managers have stood up and they've defended themselves and defended the club. But Ange Postecoglou, I feel like, just has such a way around him that it feels like it's just another level. It's like, it's king shit. I tell you what, in the original statement that revealed Postecoglou as the new Celtic manager, it done a lot to try and hype it up. And I remember at the time being like, okay, this is it. I can get behind this. Even though there was a lot of scepticism from myself at first, which you can see in my old videos. This was a sort of statement I was like, right, okay. This is good. This is good. But the one thing that I wanted to point out from the original statement was this quote here. I will be doing everything I can to get our great club back on top and at the same time deliver the kind of football which our fans appreciate. We want to entertain our fans. We want to win. These are the objectives which I always set myself and which I now begin to work on. And I believed them. But I didn't quite think we get all of it in a year. We are back on top, baby. And I tell you what was even funnier, some of the reaction to the statement revealing Postecoglou as Celtic manager. I took a little trip down memory lane earlier today to have a look at what some people were saying. And my God almighty, some of the reaction was Hall of Fame worthy, let's put it that way. Now, what I think is ironic about this one here, and what I love about this one here, is the photo used with the caption, right? When you're at the point of not even caring who your manager is, just desperate to have one. Okay, at the time, it was a bit, where we wanted how, never happened. We had to wait. Postecoglou came in. We never really knew who he was. Some people could say it was desperate. But it's the fact that the photo used of laughter here involves a coaching team which then ran. Steven Gerrard, where are you now? From Rafa Benitez to Frank Lampard to Eddie Howe to Big Ange. Rafa Benitez, who was sacked months later from Everton. Frank Lampard, who just escaped relegation with Everton. And you know what? To be fair to Eddie Howe, he's landed on his feet a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the banter years, I don't know. I'd maybe say that the baton is still on one side. The absolute best one out of all the responses from this loser, Ryan Clark-Kent. He's blessed us with some fantastic tweets over the past 12 months. Remember, this was the guy who said Kyogo was too small to play in the league. They'll be launching themselves off the top tier in September. Don't worry, I consider it every month, no matter if we're winning or not. It's just a general thought of mine. He'll be gone by Christmas. Christ, it's summer. And 100% certainty. Just give us the 56 now, cakewalk. Lol. Well, you know what? 10 in a row, I think there's an eligible enough claim to say Celtic could go for 10 in a row. Yeah, why not? We've started at 1 again. This comment's a bit wild, isn't it? What happened to Conte, Pirlo and Zidane? Were they linked to the job? That's fucking news to me. Of course, it keeps up with the very big trend of lying from Rangers fans. There is a recurring theme of lying, and this is another one to add to the pile. And I think one of the biggest things was the general mixed reaction there was from Celtic fans. Now, I would go and react to some of my videos, but I feel like that's a video in its own, and I feel like that would just keep this video going on a lot longer than it should need to. You all know how I felt when it was the appointment was made. I wasn't convinced it was the greatest for the club. I wasn't convinced that it was the one that we should have been making. But one thing I was certainly clear on was the backing that he deserved, and that if the board had done the right things from the mistakes that they had made in the past, then we could really make this successful for Ange. And I don't think the board are perfect, but they backed him. They gave him the money. They made the signings. And that's gave Postecoglou the tools to do what we've done this season. There was rightfully a mixed response from Celtic fans when he was appointed. You were right to feel aggrieved. You were right to feel pleased. I think that whatever side you were on, there was justification for both. But one thing we can all agree on now is we love the guy. We absolutely adore him. And he's been one of the biggest breaths of fresh air that this country has ever seen and Celtic have ever seen. So I, for one, am buzzing. I, for one, am delighted we have him as our manager. And 1 year will hopefully turn into years and years and decades of success. Stay for 10. Stay for 10. Right, that'll do us for today. 1 year on it. Hopefully we'll have some content over the weekend as well. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.